a few things to look at. And the agenda for today is what we'll be looking at today. The agenda for today is understanding UI/UX design, and also be looking at the key principles of UI/UX design, and also the best practices of UI/UX design. And we'll be looking at some tools and resources, and also we have the Q&A section of it. So picking up from the first one, understanding UI/UX design, basically. So what is UI design? What is UX design? What are they all about? Is it about just the screens, or is it about just the experience? Is it about the product entirely itself? Let's find out. So what is UI design? UI is like, user interface. Design refers to the process of creating visual appealing interfaces that facilitates effective interactions between user and digital product. So basically, I think most of us make use of phone right now, and everything you see on our phone, just like I don't want to say screenshots, but just the images we see on our phone, like the buttons, the icons we see on our phones, or not just the phone, but any kind of products to make use of. Those are what we call UI. Those tiny elements are what makes up UI, so which we call user interface itself. And so what is UX design? UX design refers to the process of creating meaningful and delightful user experience through the thoughtful design of every touch point in a product. So I tell people that UX is what brings the small component that we have on our interfaces, the button, the icons, the input field. UX is what brings all this stuff to life itself, that makes the application that is that makes it feel make it feel alive, something like that. And I'm more of the UX guy. I don't know if you can tell, but that's why I'm a UX designer at Booking.com. So I'm more of the UX guy than the UI guy. But yeah, let's just go through everything together. So that's basically everything about UI. UI is about interface. UX is about the process at which a product is being used that creates that creates a better experience for the user. And so example of a UI design, which is what we have right now. So this right here is an example of a UI design. This screen is a kind of a static page, or is a kind of static screen where we are just seeing we're seeing a text, or we're seeing some box, and the box, they have some text on it, and they have the colors and all sorts like that. So this is just a UI. Now the user can't interact with this thing like this because there's no function to be done at all. So this is just a pure user interface itself. And before the user interface can get to this particular part, to this particular stage itself, there are some things you need to know about, which we're going to look into later, before it can be as clean as this, and also it can be as presentable as this particular picture I see right here. So this is an example of a UI design. And so let's look at an example of a UX design. I was supposed to attach a video here, but I could not get into this part. So I'll just click on a link that will take us to my portfolio, and I'm going to show a video. I'm going to play a video for us, so we can see what UX design looks like itself. Can you see my screen, right? You can see my screen, right?
Yes.
All right, nice. So this is an example of a UX design. It's just like an application. As you can see now, everything in the app is moving, and you can see the button. I click on the button, it brings out something for me to tap on. From there, I'm able to input a phone number, and once I'm done inputting the phone number, I click on another button that takes me to another page. Then I can input something else that is required from me. Then once that is done again, I click on the button to go to another page itself again, which makes me probably make use of the application that I'm trying to use. So basically, it's just a sign-up process of a particular application. Now, the process at which I'm kind of inputting my data to the application is what we call user experience itself. So this is how the user gets to interact with your product. The process at which the user gets to interact with your product is what is called user experience. Now, at this point, this is when you can tell, the user might have a bad experience onboarding to the product. The user might have a good experience onboarding to your product. So this UX this depends on how you craft it yourself as a designer. So at this point, you need to make sure that you understand your user. You need to make sure that your user knows exactly what you're doing. You need to make sure that your users know exactly what they are doing on your application. And so the joy that your users get from using your application or the experience that they get from using an application. That is basically what we call user experience, which is the UX design itself. Let's go back to our slides. So yeah, so that is it about UI, and that is the breakdown about UX itself. So let's go to the next slide. So what is the role of UI UX design in creating successful products? The role of UI UX design in creating successful products and services is to enhance user satisfaction, engagement, and loyalty by crafting intuitive and visually appealing and seamless experience that meets user needs and also expectations. So for example, if you are telling the user to come and sign up for something, let's say just like the video I showed us earlier now, is a kind of so the context of the video is like a medical application app whereby you can go on board and you can connect, you can tell the application about your problem, and then they connect you to a specialist around you, maybe a doctor. For example, if you're having like something like an eye problem, then they connect you to a doctor that deals with eye that is very close around you. And before you can make use of the application, obviously we need to know your details, we need to know everything about you. Probably you need to know the kind of symptom you're having. Is it both eyes or one eye, and all sorts like that. So the process at which, let's imagine the user is a new user, the process at which the user comes to the application, download the application from App Store, Play Store, and the user is trying to sign up. Then we ask the user for the name, then we ask the user for their email, then we kind of verify the user to make sure the user is not a bot, but actually a true user itself. Then we also try to get their location, then we try to get, after getting their location, which is basically what we call KYC, then we basically try to, KYC means know your customer. We're just trying to know more about them so we can give them the best experience they want. Then we also get to know about their location, to know exactly the kind of doctors to recommend to them, the one very close out to them, and all stuff like that. So all this process, it was like, is the role that UIUX plays to to create a successful product. Now, this problem we're trying to solve is we're trying to connect people to the closest doctor around them. And how does UIUX help us to achieve this particular thing, which is what I've showed you in the video. So from the UI perspective, we created buttons, we created input field that the user needs to click on to input something, right? To get the user data or to understand what the users want. And the UX itself is the process at which we get to know the user, know their problem, and also connect them to the closest doctor around them for them to to access quick medical care and all sorts like that. So once the user comes to the application, if the UI is so attractive, yeah, the UI is fine. I like the color, I like the button and all sorts. And if the UX is not that good, which means probably they're trying to sign up, your input field is not allowing them to input their name correctly, or let's say your input field is asking for an email, and you are really not saying it that this should be an email, right? And your input field is probably saying like phone number, but you're asking them to input email. So basically, if the user is kind of inputting a phone number in an email box, that is a very bad user experience, and which the user would probably know about. And so there's going to be a frustration that the user is going to fill out that process itself, and from there the user might drop off from your application. And if the user is going to tell your application to someone else entirely, they will say, oh, I don't like the application, I was trying to do something like this, I could not do it. And with that, we can say the user probably had a bad experience with your product, and there's a high chance that the user will come back to your product again. So UI/UX and UIX and design, our role as a UIX designer is to help create the product visually appealing, and also create a best the better user experience for the user, while also using the product itself. Moving forward. Key principles of UIX design. We have few of them. We have a lot of them, but I'll just be touching points on few of them basically. So we have simplicity and clarity. We have consistency and visual hierarchy. We have users. Why is this looks like a duplicate? Sorry, give me a minute, please. This looks like a duplicate. Boy, did you post something? Okay.
You can continue. I don't think.
All right. Yeah, I think I thought it was a duplicate, so just figured it's not a duplicate, just the tools. Okay, yeah. So we have some key principles of design itself. Key principles of UIUX design. We have the simplicity and clarity. We have consistency and visual hierarchy. Then we have the user-centric approach. Ignore the tools and resources I decided here. It's just probably a mistake that I omitted. So yeah, so let's look at simplicity and clarity. And what is simplicity and clarity? Simplicity and clarity in designs are important because they reduce complexity, they enhance usability, and also makes it easier for users to understand and interact with digital interfaces, leading to improved user experience and also increased engagement. So at this point itself, you have to keep your UI as simple as possible. You have to make your UI as easy as possible for the users. You don't want to give them something that's really not important to them at this point in time. That's why, you have to keep it simple and you have to keep it clear to the users. If you want the users to input their email, put the input field there, telling them to input their email. Don't try to distract the users, probably telling them about something else entirely. Their aim for that particular screen to input their email, let them know that this is what they're about to do on the screen and give them the action to perform that particular task in less than probably 1 minute or in the less time they can, as best as possible or as quick as possible. So simplicity and clarity, make your design simple as possible and also make it clear to the users so they can be able to navigate their way around the application as easy or as seamless as they can itself. That is it about simplicity and clarity. And there's something about consistency and also visual hierarchy. So this particular thing itself I can say, is actually the backbone of UIUX design, because in design itself, you need to be consistent with your UIs. If you're using blue color for your CTA action means call to action buttons, which they mean, for example, you see sign up button can be a CTA action, which is called a call to action button. So if you're using blue for your call to action button, let all your call to action buttons be that particular blue itself. Don't let your call to action button on your sign up page be blue, then your call to action button on your register page be red or be black, something like that. You need to keep consistency across board on your product itself. So consistency is part of what makes your product simple and also make it clear, because once your user gets kind of familiarized themselves with the color blue, that blue is for CTA, they can actually operate your product blindly, because they all, without giving so much attention, because anyway they see blue, they can tell that yes, blue means call to action, and they probably when they click on it, they expect something to be done, something like that. So consistency is very, very important. And also visual hierarchy are also important because they make things look and work in a similar and organized way, helping users easily understand and navigate interfaces, resulting in a user-friendly experience itself. So hierarchy is about, I'm going to see break it down so we can see exactly what I mean with that. So this is a breakdown of it. Consistency means things in the design looks and work in similar ways so users can easily understand and recognize them. And also hierarchy, visual hierarchy means arranging elements on the screen in a clear order, showing what's most important and guiding users' attention itself. So again, it just kind of links itself again to simplicity and clarity. So everything in design is kind of connected, and the more you follow these rules, the more you're just going to get the best out of it, and also get I don't say the perfect UI, but you get the best UI more to follow these key principles. So visual hierarchy is also important. If there's an H1 text, like an edit text here, let it be bold like an H1. You don't want to allow your body text and your page title or your page title text have the same font size or have the same font width itself. Your H1 text, which probably your heading, can have a bold font width, and your body text can be 16 and have a regular font width itself. So that's something like that gives some kind of hierarchy. Now, hierarchy, talking about the visual hierarchy, it's something that you can see in this slide itself. Now, if you look at the question, what is consistency? It's kind of even though it is the same size, the same font size, with what is explaining consistency, you can be able to differentiate that the colors are different. And you can see that the body text is more called out than the question itself. So now looking at the slide now, what UI is going to get first is the explanation of consistency. Then later, your eye is going to catch the question itself. That is because I applied the visual hierarchy principle at this point, and I'm making you focus mainly on what exactly I want you to see first, which is the explanation of consistency and also explanation of visual hierarchy itself. So this is exactly what consistency and visual hierarchy can do in the product, and also how you can enhance. Sorry, someone talking? Hello? Am I still here? Or is someone trying to say something?
Yes, please continue. I think somebody tried to.
Oh. Okay. All right then. So I was just talking about consistency and visual hierarchy. Sorry for that distraction. So this is what you can get once you follow the the consistency and also the visual hierarchy in your product. You make your product easy to use for the users, increase readability, enhance readability, and also improve the results when users are making of a product. Yeah, so let's go to the next slide. And we also have the user-centric approach, basically. User-centric approach, this involves placing the needs, behavior, and preferences of the target users at the forefront, ensuring that the design decisions prioritize their satisfaction and also their usability. And mainly, I think you might be hearing people talking about user-centered design, user-centered design, user-centered design. This is basically what it means itself. User-centered design, you have to understand what your users you need to understand your users, understand what your users want. They'll use that to draft or create the product that will fit your users' need and also your users' want. And how to implement a user-centric approach in design is number one, like I said, understand your users' target audience. That's the main thing there, because if you're trying to solve a problem, or as a UI/UX designer, you're trying to solve a problem, you're trying to solve a problem and you don't understand who you're solving it for, it's basically just you running on cruise, like they're just designing for designing's sake. And at the end of the day, if the product is being developed, or if the solution you came up with is being developed, you probably won't have enough users making of the product, because you really did not do any research. You were just designing based on cruise or based on vibes. And also, still talking about how to implement a user-centric approach, is value user research and usability study. So user research, this is basically another topic on its own, which I won't go deep into today, but I'll just give you some things about it. So user research, we have various things about user research. We have quantitative user research, qualitative user research. We have the contextual user research. We have the market user research, and some more, just to mention a few. And these are the things before you even start your product itself as a UI/UX designer, this particular principle is something that you must follow. You need to go into the market and understand this problem that we discovered. Is it just that I'm noticing it, or is it an actual problem that everyone is actually facing, maybe in Africa or actually in the world itself? You need to understand the market value of this particular problem that are about to solve. Okay, if me as a team or my CEO, or let's say for example, you are your friend, you just discovered something and you're trying to understand how to go around this thing. Market research can basically help you by understanding, who are the competitors in this particular market? What are they doing wrong? How can we come into this market and beat these particular competitors? That is market research, which is something different entirely. Then you have the qualitative and quantitative research, which is probably sending out forms to your potential users, asking them about their previous experience, how their previous experience with probably with competitors, or let's say that, for example, just like the way we deal with bank apps in Nigeria, right? So right now, I really don't know much about, I don't say much about it. Okay, let me just talk about the bank app, right? So let's say, for example, the fintech space in Nigeria, we can see today a company will come up talking about they designed something, they came up with a solution to help us pay with our dollar card better. In the next 2 weeks again, we'll see another company coming up saying that, they designed something better to to help us pay with dollar card and all sorts like that. Now let's imagine that all these things that these companies are coming up with is not solving your problem, and you discover that it's not just only solving your problem, like it's not solving just only yours, but also you discover that almost everyone is complaining about the same thing. So for you to be able to like, and you think that you can do better than these companies, right? For you to be able to like, understand the fintech space, understand the problem everyone is facing with not being able to pay with their dollar card, you need to like, do the market research. These guys that they are already in the game, what are they doing wrong? What is it that they're not getting right? You need to understand that yourself. Okay, if I should start this particular thing itself, it is something that are going to like to probably adapt to. So that is where you have to do your quantitative and also your qualitative research. You need to go into the field, ask users questions, ask them, okay, we understand that this particular thing is kind of frustrating you, right? What do you think, or what solution do you think is going to like, solve your entire problem? So users are going to start telling you about things, and from there, you can start getting data and know about how to come up with your own solution itself. So that is how you have to make your product user-centric. And making your product user-centric is something that is important and also one of the key principles of UI UX design itself. And I think the other one that I actually want to mention about is talking about business goals and all sorts like that. So I probably won't mention it because that is another rabbit hole on itself, on its own. Moving forward. Next slide. Yeah, so user research and usability study and usability testing, right? User research and usability testing provide insights into users' behavior, preferences, and pain points, allowing designers to make informed decisions, improve usability, and also create user-centric design that aligns with the user's needs. So this is basically everything I just explained, talking about doing the research and understanding the users, understand their pain points, understand their needs, know what they like, what they don't like, know how the competitors are doing in the market, how you can improve it, and all sorts like that. The next slide. So what are the best practices for UIX design? We have few. I'm just going to take us through a few of these also. And so I think three main one from the best practices of practice of UIX design is like responsive design, accessibility, and also feedback and error handling. So let's just pick everything one after the other and look through them. So for responsive design, right? Responsive design is crucial as it ensures that interfaces and concepts adapt seamlessly across different devices and screen sizes, providing consistent user experience and also accessibility for a diverse user base. So what this is just saying is that basically, I know most of us right now, we are joining this Zoom call from our phone, or we're joining from our laptop, or we're joining from our iPad. And the reason why we are able to join with different devices or be able to join with different stuff like this is because Zoom made their products kind of responsive to whatever kind of device I'm making use of. So as a designer, if you are designing, you can't just design for web alone. You can't just design for app alone. You have to design for probably the possible or the most popular device that people are probably making use of. And the most popular one that people are making use of is basically probably you design for the website, you design the responsiveness for websites, which is for mobiles, and then you design the Android apps, then you design the iOS apps, right? So you need to make sure whenever a different size of these devices to make your product accessible to everyone across the world or across the globe. Although there are some products that they are actually restricted to web only or restricted to apps only, but those ones are kind of product decisions taken by I think that is something that is deep entirely that we'll probably look into some other time like that. What I'm just trying to say is that you have to make your product responsive, and that is one of the best practices to make to make everyone be able to make use of a product at any point in time, at anywhere they are, anywhere around the world itself. And the other one is accessibility. This one is something that I probably don't think we are taking serious in Africa yet, in quotes yet, because it's apart from just following the WCGA guidelines or something like that. The WCAG, which is called the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. Apart from just following that alone, there is a lot of things that you are probably missing out of it. And I myself, it's because it's when I started working at Booking.com, which is about a year ago. That is when I'm able to understand that, oh, accessibility is more than just checking color combination or checking color code or making sure we're using the right, color combination while designing. Although that is also important, but for beginners like us, right, that is something we'll probably start with first. Then later on, we go deeper into the whole what's it called, screen readers of a thing, tab focus, keyboard functionalities, and all sorts like that. But yeah, for accessibility in digital products is essential to ensure that individuals with disability can perceive, understand, navigate, and interact with content and functionalities, promoting inclusivity and also equal access and a positive user experience for all. Yeah, because some people we have some people with color blindness. Whenever we are designing, we have to take into consideration this kind of people, and we have some people who probably can make use of a trackpad or make use of a mouse to operate the products, and mainly they make use of keyboard, which that is when I was like keyboard, tab focus, using your keyboard to navigate around the website. That is when that particular one comes in. And there are some people who probably can't see, who are blind, the visually impaired guys, and they can't really see what is on your product. Like they literally can't see anything. So, and how to design for those guys is probably making use of making your design accessible by making sure it follows the WCAG screen reader guidelines itself. So example, screen reader is just, for example, you design something and the screen reader functionality is kind of embedded in either the phone or the laptop to make sure it reads out loud whatever appears in your product itself. So that is something, again, that is deep down the hole I probably don't want to go into today also. So accessibility is just making your products accessible to everyone, by not discriminating, by saying that, okay, we just only want to take care for the people that can see, but you have to also take care of people everyone with disability, either people that cannot use the trackpad, people that have the color blindness, people that cannot see. You have to make sure that your product is accessible for everyone, and you also have to design for everyone in this particular scenario itself. Yeah, the next one is feedback and error handling. I think this is something that we also almost everyone know about itself. So feedback and error handling in products are kind of vital to provide users with clear and informative guideline. And also, so what this means is for example, we are trying to input. I think we all should have experienced something like this. Whenever you're trying to input a password and you enter a wrong password, some products that are well designed, they probably tell you wrong password, input your password, or use the forget password, flow or something like that. And some products, whenever you're trying to create a password, they tell you whenever you're trying to create a password for a particular process or something, they tell you either your password is weak, or they tell you either your password is strong, or they tell you mix some combination of some words to make your password strong and all stuff like that. So that's something about error handling. And again, error handling is just if a user makes mistake about their email, basically tell them that looks like you can't just tell them that error, unable to log in. You have to tell them exactly where the problem is from. If the problem is from their password, or if the problem is from their email. If it is from their password, tell them password incorrect, enter your password again or something. If it is from their email, tell them email incorrect, check your email carefully and probably re-enter your email. And there's and in any case that both probably the email and also the password is not correct, you tell them that email and password incorrect, re-enter your re-enter your email or something like that. And a bad experience is, for example, when the email is correct and the password is not correct, and you're not just telling them anything, and the user can't probably log into the application itself. You're not telling the user what is going on. User does not understand exactly what is going on. They are kind of confused that I'm clicking the login button. It's just loading. It's not taking me into the application. What exactly is happening? You're not telling the users that wrong password or wrong email. You're doing nothing. So there's no how the user is going to be aware of whatever is happening to them. So error and feedback handling is the best way, like, if to keep the user informed about what is happening on the platform itself. They have a wrong password, tell them wrong password. They have a wrong email, tell them wrong email. And another example apart from email and password is, let's say the user makes a search on a particular application. Let's say, for example, you make a search on Google Play or you make a search on App Store itself. And let's say the application is not available on Google Play or Apple App Store. They tell you that unable to find application or something. So at that point, they kind of communicate to you that we're unable to find exactly what you're looking for at this particular point. Maybe you can check back later. And so that is a better way of also, like, handling error and also fallback for empty search and all things like that. And another one also is, like, this Google of a thing. I don't know if anyone has actually encountered when you're browsing on Chrome and probably your internet suddenly just, like, goes off. The Google Chrome is actually going to take you to a page that shows you probably a game coming up, and they tell you exactly what is happening, like, weak network, or check your network, or check your Wi-Fi. Google will actually even tell you exactly what to do, maybe to restart your device, or maybe to restart your Wi-Fi or something like that. So that is also something about error handling and also feedback. And yeah, moving to the next slide. I think we're almost done. Yeah, so popular UIUX tools. I think most of us must have, like, probably know what the tools are all about. UIUX tools are, like, tools that we use to create the experience itself, or tools that we use to, like, make this design itself. Obviously, we're not designing on pen and paper. We have some tools that we make use of, like, to bring this stuff to life. And some of the tools are like Sketch, Adobe XD, Figma is what is popular by everyone. I also use Figma mainly. And InVision Studio also is something that most people make use of. I think I know some friends who make stuff this one. And we have Principle, we have UXPin, we have Proto.io, then we have Just in Mind, and also we have Sketchbook. Most of these are prototyping tools, and they are also, like, design tools themselves, where you can design your UI and you can, like, create a better experience for products in all these things themselves. And I can say they are also products. So most of these products are also products that were designed for us to design products. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, that's basically it. And these are most of the tools that we use, like, to design, to bring to life design, and also UX of whatever we have in our head. And yeah, and for resources themselves, I basically did not put any resources there because this is an academic section, a webinar, and I'm very sure, like, Jupyter Academy definitely we have a lot of resources themselves that they'll probably talk after. They'll probably take you guys through after I'm done talking. And like, I believe Jumel Buhari is going to have a lot, because I remember I usually come to him for resources, and it's just going to, like, send me links of, like, YouTubers, sending links of, like, Instagram page to follow, which has probably, like, they've actually helped me while designing, and they are still actually helping me because I'm still following them on Instagram and YouTube and all sorts like that. And yeah, so I think that's basically everything about my talk. And I think with this few points of mine, or with this few talking I've done, I've been able to let you understand like, how to design user-friendly interfaces as a beginner, and also the principles and the best practice of this stuff itself. Yeah, I think that's basically it. And the next one I just have is, like, the question and answer. If you have any questions, so I'm just going to go through these chats. If you have, like, if I send a question there, I'm just probably going to answer, and probably then I'll hand over to Buhari to, like, continue with it.
Yes, guys, please, if you have questions, drop it on the chat. Then we answer them. Is somebody trying to talk? You can unmute your mic if you want to ask as well. Somewhere I can see your mic is on. You can go ahead. Somewhere, if you are speaking, we can't hear you.
Okay, I think it's asking what to Zeke is asking what, okay, I use Figma for design, but I don't really do prototyping. What tool would you recommend I try for prototyping? Yeah, I think you can also prototype on Figma itself, and I think Figma is trying their best to make like everyone prototype within Figma itself. But outside Figma, you can use Protopy. I think this is something I use mainly also actually prototype, which is very, very awesome. So you can try Protopy, but I think Protopy is only available for Mac alone. I don't think it's available for Windows. So you can use, if you use Mac, if you use a Mac device, then you can try Protopy. It's easy to learn and also kind of straightforward. So yeah.
Sorry, there is a question. Is it advisable to enter UI/UX market, especially with the increase in UI/UX designer? I would allow you answer that, then I'll also answer it. Please go ahead.
So about this, right? So there's something I tell people is like the sky is wide enough for everyone to fly in, right? So I think like right now, I don't want to see the market saturated. And also looking at the fact that companies are doing layoffs and all sorts like that, I don't think you should be scared by it. I think what you should focus on is your skills and what you can offer to whatever company is trying to hire you. You just have to make yourself. I don't want to say make yourself different because almost everyone is saying that thing. So you need to know your stuff, and by me saying know your stuff is about knowing exactly I don't want to say exactly what you're doing, but that's what I'm going to say. Know exactly what you're doing in design. Know how to sell yourself. Know that you know the UX parts very well. Know that you know the UI parts very well. And whenever you're going to interviews, let companies see the reason why they should hire you. They should see you as as a big fish to catch, something like that. So just make yourself present. I don't want to make yourself presentable, but make people see that value in you as a UX designer or as a UI UX designer. So I don't think you should. I don't think I would say you should not enter the market now. If you think that is something you want to do, just go into it and know your stuff in it, create a portfolio, and start applying. And I think you should be good. But it's going to be crazy, but you should be good.
Yes. To add to that as well, I think a lot of people these days just come into UI/UX because they hear people talking about UI/UX, no passion, no interest or whatsoever. So many people are just here to learn and get a job and start making money. It doesn't work that way. Technical skills are a bit different from your regular jobs. Even back in the days when UI/UX wasn't that common in Nigeria, you have to really stand out. I would use Fisayo as an example. I can tell you of many UI/UX designers that have applied to bookings.com and did not get it. You can't just because you've learned UI/UX, you've taken certificate courses, and you don't practice or improve on your craft, you think you would get your job. In the past, I've also heard of so many people that have left their job to come and learn UI/UX or front end or something. Once they take courses, most people even just run to UI/UX because it is much easier to them than maybe coding or other tech skills. But for UI/UX, if you learn it, if you take courses and you just stay and start applying for jobs, you might not get those jobs. You have to be really good at what you do. The market has always been competitive. Let's put it that way. It has always been competitive. If you are working with companies in the US and other places outside Nigeria, you would really know that you really need to know what you are doing for you to get into those kind of places. Not just thinking because you learned, you've taken one course, you just sit down and start applying for jobs. No, it doesn't work that way. So my answer would be the market has always been saturated. The market has been saturated 5 years ago. Just those that really knew what they were doing and those that had interest in it, they kept on improving on themselves and getting better. If Fisayo had given up long ago, he wouldn't have gotten to where he is. So don't think you will just take a course and that's it. You also have to put in the work, put in the time and everything. So I would say the market has always been saturated and anybody can still get in. People are still getting in fact.
Exactly.
I remember like 2 months back, I have somebody that I taught over a year and the person just learned and just sat back. And not just sitting back, he tried to like apply for foreign jobs with no experience. you want to be collecting dollars when you've not even learned, you just learned, you've not practiced, you're not good at this thing. It doesn't work that way. So I advise him, start practicing and get a job in Nigeria first, get a job locally. And right now, I can tell you that he has gotten a job and in Nigeria, he's doing that. So you should give it time. Give it 3 to 6 months. I don't think anybody that is working outside Nigeria, anybody that got a remote job from Nigeria just started 6 months ago or 1 year ago. It takes time, to be honest. It takes time. So it's not how do they call it? Like easy way to like just get
not a scam or a money get rich
exactly.
scheme.
Exactly. If you give it time, I'm 100% sure that you get to where you are going. It's just like every other skill. Yeah, let's not spend so much time on that question. I think there are others. Somebody asked, can we have the record? Yeah, we are recording this. So those that are here, we should send an email to you guys after this call with the recordings. Another question. I think Moyi, this is yours. It says, my question is about design system. For example, at your company booking.com, how do you go about design system? Do you have a dedicated design system or an already existing one?
Yeah, so for in booking.com, because booking.com is actually a very big company. So we have a dedicated team focusing on design system, and we actually have a whole design system itself. And we have the team maintaining the design system. So that means basically that is why I'm actually mainly a UX designer and not a UI UX or not a UI designer, because when it comes to UI, I rarely create buttons anymore because we already have them in the design system. What I just do is just go to the design system and pick whatever I want and make use of it to create the experience that I want, basically. So for a company like Booking.com, we have a team and we have a team maintaining the design system that make sure it's scalable for everyone across board within the company. I wanted to say within the team, but within the company. And but I don't know how. I think for smaller team, I think if for smaller team that probably don't own, I think for startups, meaning that I've actually worked with before leaving, most of them, they have the design system that every designer gets to contribute into. So let's say, for example, you are creating something different, or so you are working on a new feature, and they probably don't have the components, or your components that the existing component that you have is not scalable. So get you what you want. So basically, what we do then was we create the components, we create the whole components, and also add it to the design system to make everyone know that we have something like this now, and all sorts like that. So if you're not working in a big company, then you have to also understand the whole thing. You have to understand about design system and how to contribute to the design systems. So yeah.
Great. Another question goes, what is the difference between a UI UX designer and an app developer?
This one, they're totally different, right? It's app is mainly about. I think as a UI UX designer, I don't know why. I don't see your problem. Why do you want to so UI UX is not coding, right? Even though you might need to understand some things about how coding works, I'm not saying you should go and learn it, but just normal product sense about how coding and all things like that works, because you mainly be working with the developers. So as a UI UX designer, you'll be working mainly with the developers, which is who you just mentioned. So if you are designing for UI, if you are designing UI UX for mobile applications, you definitely work with mobile app developers to bring your design and also your experience to life. So they are definitely different. Developers mainly are the ones that do the coding, the front-end coding, the back-end connectivity, the APIs and all sorts like that. And you as a designer, you create the visual and also you create the flow that the user should experience when making of the application or something like that. I don't know if Barry wants to ask something about it.
Yes, I don't really have much. I think you said everything. An app developer is totally different from a UI UX designer. That's all I would say. And because of time, actually, we are over. This is over 1 hour. Let's go to the next question. User research sounds stressful and difficult. How do you go about it?
I think that's the fun. For me, that's the fun of design itself. User research is the fun of design, and I don't think there's a way you can skip it. If you skip user research, you're basically designing on vibes. That's what I'm actually going to say. You're basically just designing on vibes. It sounds stressful, but that's the fun of it. That's the actual process itself. And when you are creating portfolios or when you are creating projects for your portfolio, that is something that recruiters actually look forward to itself. Because you can't just tell me that you discovered the problem and you just went directly to the solution. What exactly did you do? What research did you do itself? It sounds stressful, but it is something that you must do. So how do I go about it? I basically go through, I think you need to read more about quantitative and qualitative user research and just mainly everything about research, quantitative, qualitative, contextual, market research, competitors analysis and all sorts like that. Once you read all these things, then you should actually you see that it's not as stressful as you think it is. So it's probably straightforward and also easy to go through. So these are the methodologies that you need to also go through, or the methodologies in the process of design itself. So yeah.
To add to that, I don't think user research is hard. Why? Because to me, it's even like the fun part, because it's more like you understanding what you want to do before you design. So it's just like you saying, oh, you want to design this, but right now you want to understand how to go about it. You get? So like Moyi also mentioned, you can even have like a template. You understand what quantitative and qualitative research is. Just have a template. You know that if you want to do research, this is what you are starting with for this project. From this, you move to that. It's just like a guideline for you to do your user research. But yeah, I don't think Moyi, I don't know, but in Nigeria, I don't think most companies even do user research. Just few companies that just adopting it.
It's actually Oga Center. Like once your CEO tells you this is what I want, I mean, I don't think
that's what they do. But it's good. It's good for you to learn it. Actually, it's good. Even if your company is not doing it, but you know that you are working on something, you can do your user research yourself. You don't have to present it to the team if you don't work on. But you just
I actually don't think there's a way you can escape that thing, because if you are creating a portfolio, your project must have distance like this. There's no, unless I don't think any recruiter will reach out to you, or anyone wants to apply, or anyone wants to employ you or something. So, yeah.
Exactly. Guys, no more questions, because I think we've not answered a lot of them. The next one is, you mentioned how, or if you have more questions, please, you can drop it on the group chat on WhatsApp. We'll answer it from there. But for now, please, let's just take the ones we have on screen. Next question, Moyi. You mentioned how we should use one color for our CTAs. So in a case where we have a primary and a secondary color, how do we use the primary color for the CTA? Asking because there are some products that use a primary for the main button and a secondary for the secondary button. So what would your advice be on that? I even heard there are tertiary colors too. How do I balance this out, please?
So basically, when it comes to CTAs, there are type of CTAs, right? We have the button, the main button, we have primary button, we have secondary button, then we have tertiary buttons that just probably look like links itself. So when it comes to CTAs, what I actually advise people to do, because you probably don't want to make use of different colors. Like now, so me saying that you use probably one color for your primary and secondary button is like, you want users to know that these things are clickable, they are tappable, right? So let's say, for example, you're making use of, you have two buttons, you have the sign in button and also you have the sign up button on the same page, right? So then you have the type of button, the filled buttons, and also you have the outlined buttons, right? So the filled button means that the inside is filled with blue, then your text is in white. Then the outline button means that your text is in blue, then the border of the button is white, is actually blue. You get, but the field of the button is kind of white. I don't think if you understand that, what I'm trying to say. It's like two buttons, right? So this is actually a way to also make use of a particular color in different CTAs. Now let's imagine that you have 3 CTA or 3 call to action buttons on a particular screen: sign in, sign up, and probably learn more as 3 stuff here. Then you can use this is where the type of button also comes and use the secondary button, the primary button, and also the tertiary button, which can appear as a link. You use the field buttons, they use the outline button, then use the button that just appears as a link. That means just pure text. Then you give your button just blue. So a breakdown of that is like your primary button needs to be like, the field with blue. The secondary, the field is white, but the outline is blue. Then the third button is just like, tertiary, which means it's just like, just a text for blue. So once a user sees this thing, they know that, yeah, 3 of them like that you've created. Number one is that number one is that you've built, you've kind of dealt with consistency, which means that everything they are clickable, and also hierarchy, visual hierarchy, which means that you kind of place priority on which one you want the users to look at first and which one you want the users to click on first, something like that. I don't think, does that answer the question?
Yes, it does. It does. Let's quickly move to the next one. Please, how would I know how many projects to include in my portfolio I want to send to a recruiter?
I think this one is based on, I can't really answer. I think this one is based on personal preference. Because I know a friend that used just 2 projects to get an international job, while I used about 12 in my own portfolio. So it depends on how good the projects in your portfolio are. Probably 2, 3 is enough, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Well, let's just say 3. Put 3.
Yeah, like 3. Yeah, 3 solid. 3 solid. 3 solid ones.
3 solid ones. Thank you. The next question: does UI UX thrive in Nigeria? Oh, wow.
Obviously, yes. If not, do you think everyone will be going to design? I mean, almost everyone now I think if you make use of Twitter a lot, you should see like everyone talking about design, companies talking about design. And actually, that is something that I've seen that has actually kind of evolved in Nigeria itself, because the companies, even though they are not doing the research, they are kind of moving towards beautiful UIs, adding illustration and all stuff like that, which is nice to see. So obviously, UI UX is doing well in Nigeria. But we're not just to the parts that we think, or we've not just gotten there yet, but yeah, it's thriving in Nigeria. So yeah.
I'm taking the last question. After these others, I think we can answer them on the group chat. How do you manage companies/clients that want you to research, design, and deliver a functional and highly scalable application, but do not want to give you enough time?
This is about this one itself. See, that is why you have to, if you are working. I don't. So this is actually, I'm looking for a better way to answer this, right? For me, what I do basically is I create a timeline from the beginning of before starting the project. If it is a client based, right? I tell the client that I'm using 2 weeks for this research. Before we even start or sign contract, this is how I'm going to go about my process, and I'm not finishing this in 2 months. If I'm taking 6 months for this thing, and I'm writing, and I kind of put it in what I'm presenting to him, that I'm using 3 weeks for research, I'm going to use that 3 weeks. I'm not hearing that and use 1 week for research. If you're not okay with my timeline, then take it to somebody else. But this is exactly what I'm going to do. But when it comes to like in-house, like where you're working full time, right? Now there are some product decisions that can come up. Maybe this is what is driving money mainly for your company, and without this thing, your company can't make money. You won't get paid. You have to know how to compromise. And I think something about we designers is that we need to know how to adapt to things a lot, right? If it is in-house, then you have no choice than to adapt to, like, I don't know. In Nigeria, we look at the answer. That's what we do, right? We design based on instinct. We assume, which is very, very wrong. We assume for either, which is very, very wrong. But for where I work currently, if I know that I'm going to work on something that requires research, I reach out to the researcher about 2 weeks ahead or about a month ahead. I actually reach out to the researcher about 3 months ahead before me starting the project. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to work on a social thing in November, and I need social thing from you. So that means research is actually already ready before I even start working on the project at all. And that is because I have a researcher attached to me. But without a researcher attached to me, whenever I'm about to work on a project, I create special time for research itself, enough time for research for me to go through everything. Because without that, there's no way I'm going to make design decisions. So that's basically it for me.
Yes, I agree to that as well. It's always good to lay down your own terms when you are getting projects from clients as well. So you'll be able to like do the right thing, come up with the best possible design. So from start, always state it out that this is what it would take. I mean, it's not every project you should take on. If you know it doesn't work for you, you don't have to take it, you get. Because at the end of the day, if you design something that is not functional enough or is not what it's supposed to be, you will be the one coming back to that design every time when they start developing. You'll be the one coming back to it, making changes to it, and all of that. So yeah, thank you guys. We are not taking